Hi, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Alan Laird. I'd like to welcome you to our Stem Cell 101 presentation today. I'd like to thank the 57th Street Foundation for sponsoring this event. I admit I was pretty disappointed when the live summit in LA was postponed, but we are all having to learn to adapt to this new season of change. This video has the potential to reach out beyond the Southern California area, help a greater number of people, and I'm just really honored to be a part of the healthcare change that's going on in our country and is so desperately needed. I am the owner of the Regenerative Medicine Center of Southern California. We exist for the purpose of improving the quality of people's lives and with alternative and regenerative medicine. Stem cells are one of the fastest growing fields of medicine on the planet right now, with research and treatments being provided and conducted at some of the finest medical universities, hospitals, and biotech companies from around the globe. Stem cells are changing the future of healthcare, and they're changing a lot of lives as well. Currently, there's about 4,000 clinical studies being conducted around the world. Science continues to explore all the different possibilities that stem cells have to offer for treating things like brain disorders, spinal cord injuries, diabetes, kidney, liver, heart disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. There's just so many other conditions, including COVID-19, that people have suffered with those infections, and they're seeing a lot of promise. However, these conditions are more still in research, are going to be required before it's going to be offered as a standard of care, at least in our communities locally. So what we focus on primarily in our clinic is degenerative conditions of joints and surrounding tissue, because this is an area where research, clinical outcomes continue to support the use of stem cells. Time after time in our clinic, we're able to resolve these injuries and treat these conditions of an aging, eliminating the need for drugs and surgery. Let's admit it, for millions of Americans, pain is a big bully, right? It knocks us down, it sits on us, it keeps us down, and keeps us from enjoying a full, active quality of life. So this advanced science now has given us an opportunity to treat people without drugs and surgery. It can keep from having serious fatal side effects. A simple in-office injection is all that's necessary. It reduces pain, it reduces inflammation, it repairs damaged tissue, and restores you to a better quality of life. So before we take a look at how stem cells work, I need to ask you one simple question. Do we live in a healthy country? Now, I ask this question at all my seminars, and the answers are always kind of mixed. But the majority of people feel that our current paradigm of health and healthcare is more concerned about profit than it is about people, and I'd have to agree. However, this is just an opinion. So let's take a look at some of the facts. The U.S. makes up about 5% of the world's population. There are a little over 340 million people in our beautiful country, but we spend more on healthcare than 95% of the rest of the world. So if you take these two statistics, 5% of the world's population, spending 95% on medical costs, you would think, wow, we must be really healthy then, right? Well, either that or we're doing something incredibly wrong. So let's explore this a little farther. We actually consume 75% of the world's prescriptions. Again, remember, 5% of the world's population consuming 75% of the world's prescriptions. 90, let me repeat that, 90% of the world's opioids. Did you know that? Do you think we have an opioid crisis in this country? Man, we sure do. Our government finally admitted it a couple years ago, and research has now shown that overdoses are now the leading cause of Americans under 50. It's so sad. We're killing 130 people a day, every day, with opioid use. In fact, you may have heard recently that Purdue Pharmaceutical filed for bankruptcy because there's over 2,000 lawsuits currently filed against them by state and federal governments. No doubt the makers of Vicodin and Percocet are not far behind. We currently, with the use of prescription medications, over 1,000 Americans die every year from side effects of drugs that were properly prescribed, okay? Not mixed medications, not overdoses, but taking the medication as properly prescribed, but it doesn't react the same in everybody's body, and pharmaceutical companies know this when they manufacture these drugs. So, I mean, listen, COVID has been just a terrible disease that have taken, hundreds of thousands of lives, but what about this problem in our country? Why aren't we addressing this? In addition to drugs, when they don't work anymore, you go to cortisone shots, right? And many of you have had some of these. So how many cortisone shots can you have in a year, right? Many of you know that the answer is 3, right? Because that's what your doctor tells you. What they don't tell you is that you're really only allowed to have 6 in a lifetime. And the reason for this is because of all the detrimental side effects that cortisone produces in your body. So one of the things is that it increases osteoporosis. Now, I don't know about you, but as we get older, one of the things that we're trying to manage and maintain is proper calcium intake so that we can maintain strong bones. And in addition to that, it destroys cartilage and nerve endings. Our medical director calls it like liquid surgery, right? That's kind of how it is for them. It causes cataracts because it affects the small blood vessels, which has the ability to increase your blood pressure. It increases blood sugar levels, which can cause weight gain. All of these things are things that we consider, we're trying to modulate as we get older and as we age. And the greatest thing of all, I think the biggest detriment is it suppresses your ability to fight infections. And if you're someone that has immune-compromised immune system and you have a difficult time warding off colds and infections, the last thing you need to get is a cortisone injection. Let's look at surgery for a minute, okay? Now, surgery's helped a lot of people. I know a lot of great orthopedic and neurological doctors that have helped a lot of people. However, you have to take into consideration the downsides of surgery. One is all the prep time. Okay, you're going to have to do a lot of prep time. Right now, there are no elective surgeries being done at this time, so it's a perfect time to consider doing stem cells. You might have 3 to 6 months of healing time afterwards, which time, if you're still working, you're going to have to take off from work, so you're going to have lost time there. And of course, after most surgeries, there's a pain and rehabilitation time where they're going to be on antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, and the time that you have to go to rehabilitation. Hopefully you get a really good doctor, whatever surgery you have to have. If you have to have a surgery, I hope that your recovery is good. But 50% of the time, many people have to go back and get a second surgery because either the surgery doesn't last. Because remember, surgery doesn't regenerate anything. It's doing a repair to help your body maintain. But with stem cells, you're actually regenerating the tissue and healing. So what's your cost, right, when you do a surgery? Your out-of-pocket cost, your lost time of work, the function, the pain, the suffering, the rehab time. Take all that into consideration because with stem cells, it's a very easy, effective procedure, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that shortly. Stem cell therapy is new for the most part. We've known about stem cells for many, many years, but the science is progressing so quickly right now that now's the time to get excited. Because finally, for the first time, basically in human existence, we have found a product, a natural product, that can actually help to regenerate tissue. And we're going to talk about how that works and how it might be effective for you. So you can end that never-ending pain cycle. Get off of the drugs. Avoid the surgeries. Now, I know it kind of sounds fantasy and Star Trek-ish, that it's hard to believe that this is where we are in science, but this is where we're at, and we see it all the time in our clinic. So in order to understand how stem cells work, one of the most important things you have to understand is, how do we get this way? How do we get this degeneration? How do we get cognitive brain function that is not correct due to Parkinson's and Alzheimer's? Why are we getting so much ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, heart disease, and other conditions of autoimmune function? Well, from this Time article, and research, we now know that most of the deterioration that occurs in our body, many of the healthcare conditions, are caused by inflammation. In fact, this Time article states the surprising link between inflammation and heart attacks, which is the #1 killer of Americans across the country, the #2, cancer, okay, and then it talks about Alzheimer's and other conditions. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I predict that about 80% of the conditions that we suffer from in this country and deal with from a health standpoint are due to inflammation in our body. So if this is true, where does all this inflammation come from? And is inflammation a bad thing? Well, not necessarily. In the beginning, inflammation is part of our God-given ability to help heal. When you sprain an ankle or injure a knee or any other part of your body where you have damage, inflammation is the chemical starting point, the firing gun, if you would, the starting gun that begins the healing process. So it's the chemical trigger that starts your body to heal. So inflammation in an acute phase is not a bad thing. It's what helps us to begin healing. It's when the inflammation becomes chronic that we start to get degenerative conditions where we start to experience chronic pain, ongoing deterioration, and the body just never gets over that. And the continuation of degeneration continues and continues and continues. So in order to fix that, we need to break that cycle. You know, the drug companies have kind of figured that out. They know that one of the primary culprits of inflammation is this protein in your body called tumor necrosis factor. It's usually abbreviated as TNF. And TNF is one of the primary causes of inflammation. And again, in the beginning, it's not bad. But when it hangs out chronically, it continues the deterioration and the inflammation processes. So we need to find a way to break through that. One of the ways is to try to eliminate the inflammation, okay? And what do you think one of the main sources of inflammation in our diet is? Well, I gave it away. What do you think one of the main sources of inflammation is in our body? It's our diet, okay? And the leading cause of inflammation is sugar. Sugar is so inflammatory that we actually use it as a way of giving therapy in our office. It's called promotherapy, where we take a little bit of dextrose, which is sugar, and then we put it in some saline and we inject it into the joints or muscles of the back, and it actually causes a little bit of inflammation. And you're thinking, oh God, doc, why would you want to do that? I already have inflammation. But your body's kind of given up on that area, and we need to shoot off that starting gun again and get it fired up to work. And it works very, very well for a lot of people, and it's a lot less expensive than doing something like stem cells. But one of the best things you can do is reduce your sugar intake. The average American consumes 120 pounds of sugar a year. That's just a dangerous, it's so dangerous to our health. And we know that because we're one of the most obese countries in the world with the highest incidence of diabetes. So if you want to do something for your family and for your children, you got to cut back on the sugar in your cupboards, right? I tell my patients when they go to the market, shop on the periphery of the grocery store. Stay out of the aisles, right? Go into the aisles, get your toilet paper, and get out before the Twinkies get you. If you stay on the periphery of the grocery store, you're going to be a much healthier individual, all right? Because you'll be eliminating the sugar, and you're going to be eliminating a lot of the junk food and trans fats. Nobody goes to the grocery store with Twinkies on their grocery list, but somehow they end up in the cart at checkout. So please be careful. Watch your alcohol consumption. That's also, very inflammatory. And then there's a third thing that causes a lot of inflammation in our body that you may not recognize or think of, and that's this. It's stress. All right? And so wait, you're telling me that what I take in emotionally can manifest physically and increase inflammation in my body? Well, I'm here to say absolutely. In fact, it's one of the major leading causes of inflammation. And how that works is because your body emotionally, through hormones, helps you manage inflammation and stress in your body. You have these small glands, they're over top of your kidneys, they're called adrenal glands. And these adrenal glands balance out DHEA and cortisol. And cortisol increases inflammation in your body. And again, acutely, it's okay. But if cortisol levels continue to rise and DHEA levels continue to be low, you're constantly in this inflammatory state, and your body can't manage it anymore, and you get adrenal burnout, and the inflammation continues. All right? So one of the things we need to do to combat that is reduce the stress in our body. A recent study published at Johns Hopkins University showed that they feel that almost 80% of chronic health conditions that they found in the hospitals were related to stress. So if we could just do a little bit of meditation, right? Take some time during the course of your day, focus on your body, help your brain to help heal your body, right? And this can happen simply by getting more exercise. Exercise is a great way to reduce stress, increase your circulation, and keep your parts moving. A lot of people feel, well, oh, I have a condition that when I exercise, it hurts more. And this oftentimes is true. But find a point that you can, because they think if you're wear and tear, or if you're breaking down more tissue, if it hurts, that's not good. But actually the opposite is true. We know through research that when you don't use something, it's the, well, if you don't use it, you lose it philosophy, okay? Because the joints get tighter, the circulation decreases, the degeneration accelerates, and you're just going to degenerate faster. So you've got to keep motion. You got to get up and walk. A pool is a great idea, right? Because it's less weight bearing. And the water's cool and keeps things cooler in your body. So you got to get some exercise. Eat more fruits and vegetables. Drink plenty of water. you want to take in about half your body weight in ounces every day. So if you're 150 pounds, you should be consuming at least 75 ounces of water every day, and getting your exercise. If you want an example to follow, I think people that do Pilates and yoga on a regular basis, these are really healthy people because they're taking in they're watching their weight, they're taking in plenty of water, and they're doing passive, good stretching exercises to mobilize, their joints. But they're also getting that meditative process going. And you very rarely ever see an unhealthy yoga teacher, right? So if you want an example, consider those exercises and adopt a healthier lifestyle. So now we can talk about stem cells, because now you understand that inflammation is such a big part of why our health is so poor in this country. That and the overuse of drugs, because we're just putting Band-Aids on it. What stem cells do is they help to modulate the inflammation by also attacking and reducing TNF in the body. We're going to talk about that. But let's talk about the stem cells themselves. What are they? Well, stem cells are cells from which every other cell in your body originates. Your body is composed of trillions and trillions of cells, right? Over 236 different types of tissue in your body, and they're all come from stem cells. They all originate from those. Now there's two basic different types of stem cells. One are what we call specific stem cells. And these stem cells begin programmed to become a certain type of tissue. One of the best examples would be your blood. These stem from hemopoietic stem cells. And these cells are small, immature stem cells that are going to turn into your blood cells. You may already know that about your blood turns over, your stem cells live for about 120 days. But what you may not know is every few seconds, 150 million stem cells are dying in your body. Okay? So what replaces them? What keeps that blood flow going? Well, it's these hemopoietic stem cells that are constantly dividing, turning over, going through mitosis. If you remember your biology, one mother cell divides into two daughter cells. That's how they regenerate, and they're happening at an alarming, amazing rate when you think about how complicated the body is. But also, let's say your skin cells, which are epithelial cells. There are also specific stem cells which are going to regenerate and become skin cells. So as you slough off, thousands of cells a day, you have new cells to replace them. So there are specific stem cells that are going to become specific type of tissue. But then there's these other magical cells, I call them, and they're called mesenchymal stem cells. And these mesenchymal stem cells are in your body's reserve to help replace other damaged tissue on an as-needed kind of basis. They just haven't been programmed yet, okay? So they're young and they're immature, and they basically don't know what they're going to be when they grow up until your body supplies a chemical response that says, hey, we've got some damage here. We need you to come down and help. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, if that happens, why is my knees degenerating? Why are my shoulders degenerating? Why do I have back pain? Well, because you don't regenerate them the way that you used to. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But these mesenchymal stem cells, they have two abilities. One is so that you always have a constant ongoing supply of new stem cells. That mother cell can subdivide into two more identical stem cells. So that's why you always have a supply. But the problem is, as we get older, that doesn't happen as much as it did when we were younger, okay? Or, as needed, these stem cells can divide. One will become a daughter cell, and the other cell will go and become a different type of tissue, whether it be cartilage or bone. So they can become osteocytes, which eventually form bone. They can become chondrocytes, which eventually form cartilage, and other types of connective tissue. So that's the beauty of these stem cells, is they have the ability to replicate, become other types of tissue. In addition to that, they're anti-inflammatory, as we talked about. When we put stem cells into a joint, they reduce that tumor necrosis factor by 50% without any loss of immune function, without any side effects, without having to worry about liver damage. Okay, so that's the great thing about them, is that with stem cells, there's no downside, there's no side effects, but they do a great job of reducing inflammation. Oftentimes, patients, after we do a knee injection or a back injection or hip, they'll call me in a couple of days, sometimes even the next day, and say, this has been a miracle. I don't know what's happened, but I no longer have that degree of pain, right? I woke up for the first time this morning and stepped down on my hip, and it didn't hurt like the way it used to. So I have to counsel them, because they're like, how could the stem cells work that fast? Well, it's not like they went in there overnight and they rebuilt your hip, okay? It doesn't happen like that. but because they're so good at modulating inflammation, they went in there and they got rid of a lot of that TNF, and they kind of went in and they're cleaning up the area. Our medical director has a master's degree in cellular biology, okay? And he explained it to me this way. He said it's like in a bad knee or a joint, it gets to be like a dirty fishbowl in there, and what happens is there's lots of debris from the degenerating tissue and from cytokines and other types of inflammatory molecules that are in there, trying to deal with this situation, and it just gets nasty in there. It's not a very good environment for healing. And stem cells go in and clean it all out, right? They go in there and they get rid of a lot of those molecular things. They actually have the ability to do triage. They can go in and look at a cell and decide whether or not that cell is healthy enough to maintain and keep, or whether they should just let it go, right? That's an amazing ability that your body has on a chemical level to be able to do that triage and recognize what cells are healthy, what cells can stay, and help that area become a cleaner, better environment for healing. That's one of the primary effects of stem cells. Secondly, as we just talked about, they have the ability to differentiate and become different types of tissue. So once they kind of get things cleaned up in there, they're going to spend the next few months helping to resurface and regenerate and produce better cellular activity to help heal that area. Now, I get people in there sometimes, they've got some pretty bad degeneration. Now you say, oh, doc, I've been to my orthopedic doctor, and he says I'm bone on bone, I got to get a knee replacement. And I'm like, well, let's take a look at your individual condition. Let's look at your age, let's look at your activity level, let's look at your weight, your health, and see, if stem cells are possible for you, if you're a candidate for them. Once we do all that exploratory examination, we take a look, we have done stem cells for people that are kind of bone on bone, and they respond well. Now, they may be an 8 or a 10 pain level on a daily basis, and I'm not saying we can always take you down to a 0, but what if we could get you down to a 3 or a 4? Without drugs. You're no longer on those drugs anymore. They're damaging the rest of your systems. You didn't have to go through an expensive, painful surgery, and there's no downside. Okay, so a lot of times we can get you down to a 3 or 4, which helps you get back into life, enjoy a better quality of life, do some things you couldn't do before. And the best part is, most of the time, it's a single injection, one time. This isn't like steroid injections or hyaluronic acid or some of those other band-aids where you have to go back in 6 to 9 months. And after a while, when you do too many cortisone injections, every time you do one, you're doing more damage, so the effect isn't as good. You may have experienced that. The first time you had a cortisone injection, you were great for 9 months. And then you went back to your doctor said, oh, well, you said, doc, that was great, I felt good, but now I'm starting to get the pain again. And you say, doc, can you help me? And you go, sure, come on in, we'll do another one. And then you do a second injection, and it didn't last as long, right? Maybe only a few months or maybe a few weeks. And then, down the line, you find yourself in surgery because every time you do them, you're running into a burning building and turning off the alarm without putting out the fire and fixing the problem. That's the beauty of stem cells, is we're attacking the root cause here and regenerating the tissue. The third thing stem cells do is they modulate your immune system. Now, what do I mean by that? Stem cells actually help improve your white blood cell count, okay? So they're going to raise your immune system. And what did we learn about drugs? What do? Yeah, they actually suppress your immune system. So there's just so many benefits. You get anti-inflammatory effect, you're going to get the regenerative effect, and you're going to get a product that's actually going to help raise your immune system. This is why they've been effective in treating people with COVID infections, because when they do stem cells, now this is done through an IV, not through an injection, but when they put them directly in like that, it goes directly to the lungs, and it helps to improve lung function. People are being treated for COPD, asthma, all these lung different functions, because that's one of the primary places the stem cells work and function the best. So let's talk about you, all right? Most of the people that are interested in stem cells are 50 and older, and so we need to talk about why stem cells work for you and why your stem cells don't work as well, you're not able to heal the way you used to. So if you take a look at this chart, you'll see that when you're born, every 1 in 10,000 cells is a stem cell. That's a great number, right? So and that makes sense because you're constantly regenerating, you're growing through that time, and then by the time you're a teenager, you start to slack off a little bit. Some of that regenerating ability stops. You still heal pretty well though, because you've got about 1 in every 100,000 cells, and remember, you've got trillions of cells. So every 1 in 100,000 cells is still a stem cell. So if you break a leg or an arm or have an injury, you remember how well cuts used to heal when you were young. That's because you've got all these trillions of stem cells still in there to help you recover. Then when you get about in your 30s and 40s, it goes down even more. So only about 1 in every 250,000 to 1 in every 300,000 cells is a stem cell. So you can kind of see where this is going, right? As you get older, your body's ability to go through mitosis and divide those stem cells into new cells continues to decline, so that by the time you're 50, it's about 1.5 million stem cells as a stem cell, and by the time you're in your 60s and 70s, maybe 1 in a million to 1 in 2 million cells as a stem cell. You just don't have the workers that you used to have to be able to help you regenerate and heal. So that's why we need to find an alternative to give you more stem cells to do the work. And here's the other problem. Not only do you not have the same amount of quantity of stem cells, but let's talk about quality for a minute, right? Because when you're young, those stem cells are vibrant, right? They're like, what do you need? What can I fix? So about every 30 days, you're getting like 1 billion new stem cells because you're constantly going through mitosis and helping you grow. Then by the time you're an adult, that begins to slow down as well. Those cells just aren't as vital as they used to be. And about every 30 days, you may get about 30,000 new stem cells. And then as you can imagine, as you continue to get older in age, that ability to divide and create new cells continues to decline, so that by the time you're a senior, you're getting only a couple thousand new stem cells every new day. So I say, you're young, when you get those nice young stem cells, they're like, well, what do you need? Where can I go? What can I fix for you? And, your stem cells now are more like, I'm coming, I'll be there in a minute, all right? So you have to imagine that if we can get these new young guys over here into your body, imagine how your body would appreciate that and respond to that. And that's what we do. Now, there's different ways that clinics have done that over the years. In the past, they could take your own stem cells, okay? They could take them from your fat, which is one way. They would extract a little bit of fat. Not the best way to go. Don't get excited. They don't take enough. You're not going to lose 20 pounds. They just take a little bit, and they can actually separate out the stem cells from the fat. But they have to use an enzyme to do that, and it kind of changes the tissue a little bit. And the FDA kind of likes us to try to shy away from doing that. So we've never done that in our office because we've never felt that was your best option. The other is they could take it from your bone, okay? And when they take it from your bone, what they do is they go into the bone and they extract it from the pelvis or from one of the other joints. And when they do that, they could also take out the stem cells and spin them down and use those as well. But what did we just learn about your own stem cells, right? We learned that that's really not your best option because they're not as vital, they're not as active, and you don't have as many of them to draw from. So remember, we talked about getting those other new, young, mesenchymal stem cells. Well, where's the best place to get them? Well, we have found the inside of the umbilical cord in this gel substance called Wharton's jelly. And in this Wharton's jelly, there are trillions of these stem cells, and they're going to create this new life. But after this new baby has been born and comes to life, what do we do with the placenta and the umbilical cord? Right? It usually ends up as medical waste, right? Well, here, all these thousands of years, we've been throwing away something that actually contains the nutrients and the cells that we need to regenerate and help hundreds of people survive. From one umbilical cord, we can get enough stem cells to help hundreds of people. So that's where the science comes in. Our company, Predictive Biologics, was the first company to ever take stem cells from within Wharton's jelly. And these guys are young, they're active. We can put millions of them into a joint at a time. And again, because they're immature cells, your body won't recognize them as being foreign and reject them. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Not only is there a lot of stem cells in that umbilical cord, but it's a rich supply of things like cytokines, growth factors, proteins, even some hyaluronic acid, which is like the slippery surface in the joints to help it regenerate. All of these things help support the stem cells and help them to grow and work even better. So that's all part of the product. So where do we get these umbilical cords from, right? Because there's safety concerns, but umbilical cord mesenchymal stem cells come from live, healthy cesarean births, okay? So the umbilical cord never goes to the vaginal canal. After the baby is delivered through cesarean, the mothers go through a screening process, and then the cords are harvested, and they'll go to a cord bank. And the cord bank examines it for pathogens, and then it goes on to the biotech company where it's examined again. This is all done through FDA-approved cord banks, FDA-approved biotech companies, where they're going to take a look at the product, and we have never, with our product, ever had an issue with either rejection, okay? And this is true across the board. Stem cells are just not rejected, and then no issue with contamination, because Predictive Biotech has such a great team of safety experts on their hand, and everything is FDA regulated, done in what they call clean rooms, and it's very okay. We've treated thousands of patients with umbilical cord stem cells, and there's never been a single instance of rejection. because stem cells they're less mature than the other cells. So your body's immune system doesn't recognize them as being foreign, and therefore they're not rejected. Cellular regeneration is cleared by the FDA. We abide by all the most stringent regulations. Your comfort, safety, and recovery are our main concern. So, are there any potential side effects? Well, that's the great thing about stem cells, is because there's no issue with rejection, and your body sees them as being normal tissue, your body doesn't reject them, and there really are no side effects. Predictive Biotech did a survey where they looked at 50,000 of their products injection into knees. Out of those 50,000 injections, do you know how many poor reactions there were? 7, okay? And when I say poor reactions, I don't mean rejection of tissue, I don't mean any type of contamination. I just mean that when they were done, it was not the perfect sterile environment, and the person got a little infection in that area, they went on antibiotics, and it cleared up, and they went on to heal. But have you ever heard of any medical procedure that was done 50,000 times and only had 7 poor responses? I mean, that were cleared up? I mean, that's an incredible new science that gives us such hope for the future. Okay? We do ask you to limit your physical activity afterwards, but that's where the follow-up comes in, and we'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so everybody always asks, about this time you're thinking, well, doc, this all sounds great, but I know that insurance does not cover stem cells, right? So why is it so expensive, and what is my cost going to be? Well, I can't give you an exact figure because I haven't met you, but here are some of the factors that you have to consider. What product is being used? There are many biotech companies now across the country that are harvesting and utilizing stem cells, but if you want to get the absolute very best product, you have to make sure that you have a good company that's using mesenchymal stem cells from within the Wharton's jelly. Then we have to look at the size of the treatment area, okay? And this varies for everybody. I mean, if you're a 120-pound woman as opposed to a 250-pound football player, you're going to need a little bit difference in the amount of stem cells that you're going to need to receive. And then how much damage has been done? What was your activity level done? How well do you respond to treatment, right? The age and overall health of a patient, whether you have diabetes, whether you have autoimmune diseases, how is your diet, all of these things are going to play a part into how many stem cells we're going to feel that you're going to need. Also, how many areas would you like treated? A lot of people come in and they say, look, doc, I've got a bad knee, but I've also got a bad shoulder, or my neck is bad, I had a car accident, it affected my shoulder and my neck. So we're going to do stem cells for each of those areas, so that's going to require a little bit more. In most places, like everything else, the more stem cells you buy, most people are willing to give you a little bit of a price break and a discount. And please keep in mind that almost everybody now has financing available too. So although insurance won't cover the initial cost at this time, just like if you're going to get LASIK surgery for your eyes or you're going to get braces for your teeth, there are companies out there that can help you provide care for stem cells that makes it affordable for almost everybody. Your activity level will also will play a role. What is it that you want to get back and do again? That's one of my main questions that I ask people during a consult is, what are you not doing now that you wish you could do again if you weren't in so much pain and discomfort? And we talk about that, and that all those things play into how well you're going to respond and how many stem cells you're going to need and the overall cost. Now in our clinic, whatever number we come up with there for the stem cells, we include a lot of extra care, all right? And that's really important. So let's just recap for a minute. When we look at stem cell therapy, and if you're considering stem cell therapy, it's safe. There's really no downside. It's very, very effective for joints and backs, okay? And it's convenient. It's easy to do. There's no necessary blood work up front. You don't have to worry about doing any post-rehab usually. And we just need to monitor and make sure that you bring you back into activities with all the support that you're going to need so that you get the best outcome. My responsibility to you is to get you out of pain. It's to keep you out of pain. It's to do it with the least invasive procedure that's going to give you the best possible outcome and leave nothing to chance when it comes to your safety. So, why choose our center? Well, we've been doing this for a while and we have very, very good outcomes. However, if wherever you're at in the country, just make sure that you go to a center that is going to incorporate other alternative means of therapy to help you recover. This is so important. When we look at other clinics where people don't get as good at outcomes, it's because they don't provide any supportive type of care of a supportive climate to help you get better. Because you're going to need some nutritional counseling. Maybe you're going to need to lose some weight. Do you know for every pound that you lose around your stomach, you take 4 pounds of weight off of your back and your knees? So imagine if you lose 20 pounds, that's 80 pounds of weight off of your knees and back. So that's so important. We can support it with nutritional supplements like glucosamine and turmeric, right, to help reduce inflammation. We love CBD creams, all right, and tinctures. Prolotherapy, platelet-rich plasma, exercise therapy, maybe some bracing. There are so many ways to help and support your stem cells to make sure you get the best possible outcome, and we just never give up, right? Some people are tougher than others. It's not like a miracle every time, okay? So we need to stick with you and just know that we never give up and try to help you. Again, we're at the Regenerative Medicine Center in Southern California, where we always believe it's a beautiful day to change your life. When you look at stem cells and the potential, this is one of my heroes. Michael J. Fox, as you know, has a foundation for Parkinson's, Michael J. Fox Foundation. They are constantly doing research. They just gave $10 million away to do additional research. He said this about stem cells. If the potential of stem cell research is realized, it can mean the end to the suffering for millions of people. If stem cell research succeeds, there isn't a person in the country that won't benefit or know somebody that will. So maybe you're watching this for yourself, or maybe you're watching this for a friend or a neighbor, but please reach out to me. I'm always available to take a phone call for more information. If you're not in our area, I still don't mind. I just want to spread the word, change the paradigm of health in our country because it's so needed. And I thank you for your time. God bless you all. And I look forward to seeing you at the next live event. Please stay safe, stay quarantined, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks so much, and God bless everybody.